Welcome to a meeting of the North Penn School District Board of School Directors. This meeting is a public work session where reports are heard and discussed. The board does not vote or make any final decision on any topic during this meeting. Questions and comments by the audience is limited to topics on the agenda. Members of the audience who address the board are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 5 minutes. The school board consists of 9 school directors who are elected to serve 4-year terms. The president of the school board is Dick Bowman and the vice president is Donna Mengel. Board committee meetings are held on the second Tuesday of the month at 7:30 p.m. Watch Channel 16 on Adelphia Cable and Channel 9 on Suburban Cable for air times and dates.
Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled committee meeting where we address several topics that will come before the board as presented by the administration. We will have the ability to, as a board, to ask questions of the administrators upon each one of those presentations, at which time after that I will open it up to the floor, and anyone wishing to ask questions or speak on that particular topic only may be recognized and come to the podium. Please recall that we are filming this for play later on cable channel TV, so you will state your name and your address for the record prior to making your remarks. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes or your questions. Thank you. At this time, we'll now have 24 Merit Scholar finalists? Commended students. Join us, I think, coming in from this door. And Mr. Weir will help me. Just watch the...
Thank you for welcoming our 24 commended students, commended by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Those of you who were here last month, or those of you who saw the last meeting on cable TV, know that we recognized 7 semifinalists last month. And those 7 semifinalists, in addition to the 24 who were invited tonight, represent the group that we're honoring this season, as we do each year at this time. During the last 10 years, we have honored over 300 students who have earned recognition from the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, 79 semifinalists, and 228 commended students, as you see the group here tonight. More than 1 million students participated in the 1995 Merit Program by taking the qualifying test in October '93 when they were juniors. The 35,000 commended students nationwide are among the finest students in the nation and deserve our recognition. Each student will receive a proclamation from Board President Bowman with the same opening words, and then each proclamation has been customized, if you will, for the recipient. I'll read the proclamation only once. Whereas many North Penn School District students individually and collectively perform distinguished service to their school in many activities, and whereas the reputation and image of the North Penn School District is built and enhanced by the performance of its faculty and its students, and whereas the accomplishments of individual students in academic, artistic, athletic, leadership, literary, and musical endeavors bring positive community interest in school programs, and whereas the future of any community rests in the hands of its responsible youth. And then the student is named, and the honor that is being recognized tonight is acknowledged. So President Bowman, I would like to introduce first, if you will, Rupal Amin.
You have a list.
Pardon? You want to work from the stack?
That's fine.
If you'll hold your applause until we're finished, please. Second student would be Zachary Appleton. Sandra Brish. Karen Callahan. Matthew Cantano. Jeff Cantwell, absent, I guess.
You don't look like Jeff.
Brandy Cheney Giles. Also, we have Jennifer Della Pietra. Alyssa Ditzler. Julia Goddard. Jacob Hartman. Rebecca Casper. John Lim. Daniel McCarter. Jessica Moulton. Stephen Pedrizzani. Sonia Pyatt. Jonathan Reese. Eric Shannon. Benjamin Sprose. Nicholas Tarnasi. Kevin Taylor. John Vencius. Tony Young was also to be recognized.
On 6 months.
Now,
Thank you.
we'll take a brief 5-minute recess so that the board members and other members of the audience may congratulate the students.
Approximately 12 minutes of the meeting were not captured on videotape due to technical difficulties with equipment. During this 12-minute omission, Donna Brown, Supervisor of Science, presented an overview of the elementary school science program. Viewers who wish to obtain a written copy of Donna Brown's presentation may phone a request to the Office of School Community Services at 368-0400, extension 206, between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. weekdays.
Experiences that happen in the classrooms where kids gather their own data and use the computer to do that. They can do some word processing and put together the many reports and letters and that sort of thing. This past spring we surveyed teachers and we got a lot of feedback, and at some appropriate time we will be sharing the technology piece of that.
And with only 1 or 2 systems, there is an interactive portion to
Yes.
the kids' network, electronic mail with
Yes.
students around the world that certainly they
Yes.
benefit from.
And that's been very motivating, and it has certainly helped youngsters understand that the computer can go well beyond the typical drill and practice exercises that go on in many elementary schools. I think prior to the network, to be very candid about it, given the fact that most classrooms have a single computer, that was the limitation of it. It was used largely for that purpose. And I think now children are seeing the computer in a whole new way.
They did use that too, David. My son was fortunate enough to be in the 1st, 4th grade, I believe that was
Yes,
in
that's
the
true.
trial
They
period,
With
and
acid rain.
enjoyed it tremendously. And they also did have, periods of communication across the country.
If you were to examine what goes on in those hands-on units, you would see there is a very natural fit with what happens in the other hands-on science units. For example, too much trash, it's environmentally based, that we do use a lot of things, dispose of a lot of things. One of the activities, it doesn't sound too great, but the kids certainly get a point. They collect the trash from the cafeteria on any given day, and then they analyze what's in there. How many milk containers, how many napkins, how many straws, how many paper plates, all of that sort of thing. You have to do that with rubber gloves because it gets a little messy.
With food service.
And with acid rain, it's the same problem. The kids take water samples out of local ponds, lakes, streams. They perform acidity tests, and then through the network, they receive data from other schools all over the world. And that leads, I think you can see, to a great deal of charting and graphing of data, and the kids begin to then do some analysis. Why would there be greater levels of acid rain along the Great Lakes, for example, than there might be in Lansdale, as opposed to Alabama or England or France or wherever? There's a great deal of thinking that goes into this program.
That's great.
Charlie and Don, I have two questions. First of all, I'm pleased to hear that the Merck Institute monies have allowed you the academic freedom and autonomy in planning and instruction, but did any of those charitable monies come earmarked for a specific slant of learning, like the $122,000, but $20,000 had to be spent on, biology related? Or
Donna, each year, Dr. Paravano, who is the director of the Merck Institute, asks districts to come up with a budget, a proposal for what they would like to do. He has asked us to think in terms of some amount of funding for the materials themselves, some amount of money for the training. We have some money that we have set aside for parent involvement activities this year, and as you probably know, we've had science nights in a great many schools last year, and this year we will have an evening in which hands-on science activities are featured in every elementary school to help parents understand this particular approach. So they have some general guidelines, areas that you should touch, but
Okay,
the
but
program
the monies aren't
and the budget
specifically
is
earmarked,
us.
right?
No.
Okay, that's great. Donna, just a brief elaboration on Star Lab.
Oh, yes. I would suspect that many of you are not familiar with it. A Star Lab is an inflatable planetarium. We had it in this room at one point last year for a Science Review Committee meeting, and kind of astounded folks a little bit. It really needs an 11 and a half foot ceiling to be completely inflated. So in here, the dome was a little mushed, but you can see a very good star field. And it's most appropriate for really young children, for K through 3. The children actually crawl through this. It sits on the floor. It's inflated with a box stand. And there really is no danger there or anything like that. The beauty of it is that the star field is projected by a series of canisters which fit over a source, a light source. And those canisters are sometimes very specific. There are ones on mythology. There are ones on various cultures. The stars is viewed from varying cultures, and we feel that this fits very well with the multicultural initiative in the district. So we have lots of plans for this because we can bring it to a school, put it on a auditorium stage,
Yes.
and inflate it, or in those clear areas like the
Do we own the Star Lab, or is that on loan, or is that
we have been
leased?
given the understanding that we will have it for our use. The Merck Institute has purchased 4 of them. Right now, 2 of them, all 4 were in Rahway for the summer. 2 are currently still in Rahway. 1 is, I believe, in Linden, and the last one we are supposed to obtain very shortly. It will be stored, as far as we know right now, our tentative plan is to have it stored at North Penn High School so that we can have that as our base for moving it around the district.
So that will be on more or less permanent loan to the school district?
More or less on permanent loan, and we have people within the district, teachers, who have been trained in its use, and we also have a lot of Merck volunteers at West Point who have been trained. There was another training session this fall. There will be an additional training session probably set up for late fall, and we hope to get more people on board with familiarity in using it. It's really not that difficult to use. It's just that it comes in a series of boxes, and then you have to piece this together and inflate it.
The only reason I was curious is because with the K through 6 astronomy thread that runs through there, the combination of our planetarium and Star Lab, it would seem to me that Star Lab would have to be here pretty much all the time for it to make the rounds through the elementary schools.
I think it will be. Donna pointed out that the Institute has purchased 4 of them, and not coincidentally, there are 4 school districts that participate in this partnership, 3 of them in North Jersey and us. So I would think for all intents and purposes, it's going to be ours.
And you think the 1 plus our own planetarium is going to be enough to accommodate all the students in K through 6?
I did ask for 2. I pointed out to Dr. Paravano that we are the largest district of the 4, and it would seem only natural that we ought to have 2. But he also pointed out that we have a planetarium in the district. So it's certainly, I think those 2 will serve our needs initially. And
But we are working on it.
yeah, we're working on
They're
it.
about 10,000 apiece, I think, sometimes.
A little more than that
Yeah.
now. They're up to about 14,000 apiece.
They're nice.
They are nice.
Yeah, and people older than 3rd graders can
Yes.
crawl through
Yes.
those tunnels and sit in the dark and look at the stars.
That's right.
The children
Couple
find it
adults doing
fascinating.
that one
Yeah.
night, so that was pretty cool. Any other questions for Donna or
Just
Charlie?
one more. Tony, you talked about the science nights, which are voluntary. Is there any movement towards incorporating formal science fairs, official, into the curriculum at some point?
Not officially into the curriculum, but we've made tremendous strides just in the last month with reaching kids with science fair information, rules, updates. We hope to have many more participants this year than we've had in the past. I've started regular meetings with department chairs. We have middle school department chairs. And we are making this information available to kids from the very beginning. We also have many volunteers in the database at Merck who are willing to serve as mentors to students. And whether it's on a science fair project or whether it's a particular project in the classroom that a teacher would like the expertise of a scientist on. And we're working on placing volunteer teams within the schools of Merck scientists. So we're moving ahead on science fairs.
I just wondered if the lower grade levels, say grade 6, get that interest, that it would
Grade
become a
6,
requirement, or that it would be a grade-wide type project that
I
would be
think-
expected to at least put an effort into?
I think many teachers give that message in a very positive way to students. And I would rather see personally the desire come within the students from a volunteer effort rather than make it a requirement.
One more question. Don, I know Dr. Paravano likes to talk about this program as minds-on rather than hands-on. I was just curious with the training that's been going on of the teachers in these modules, how has that been received as the training? I'm making an assumption here that training is trying to teach a little more of the scientific method of inquiry and asking questions, getting the students to think in more of scientific terms. How's that going?
That's been very well received. Last year, through the spring, because we had intended to complete all our training by January, and weather intervened in a lot of our problems, and we completed that training in March through a combination of my efforts and an outside trainer from one of the vendors who packages the kits. This fall, because the training needed to be done fairly early, I took that responsibility of doing the training. And in September, we in-serviced 99 teachers and 6 principals. And we also have included teachers of the gifted and learning support teachers, because we think that's really important to live up to our philosophy that science is for all children. And I'm working specifically now with those teachers to try to incorporate many of these activities within their realm. The training has been very successful and well received so far.
Great, thanks.
If the board would be interested in participating in any of those sessions, we could provide the schedule, and you could perhaps drop in and see the training in operation. It's fascinating.
That's great.
I would have liked to have been at the training when they gave out the butterflies.
We're a little bit late.
I know.
That's been done.
They're already flown.
I just let 4 free yesterday. Should have been here a little early.
My own son's teacher, 3rd grade, commented at back to school night about the electricity in service, and she was real excited about that. I'm real excited that she was in service on it. That's really nice. My son just got back from the planetarium and did his day and night differences, and I'm very excited about it. I'm so glad that we have this in the district, and I'm glad that you're heading it up. I think you're doing a fine job.
Thank you. I'm really pleased with our efforts and the efforts of our teachers, as Charlie said, because they're at the core of what we do. They put a tremendous effort into this program, and without that, it would not be successful here.
Any other questions for Donna? For those of you who just arrived, that's Donna Brown, our supervisor of science. Thank you, Donna. Charlie.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? Wait, Donna, there may be some questions.
Some of the board speak up a little louder, please.
Sure. Please use your mics if you have them using. Any questions of Donna Brown or Charlie Kemp from the audience? Okay, move on to the next item. This is the bridle path nap attendance area. Charlie.
Last November, in preparation for reorganizing the schools and also bringing into service the new Bridle Path and Walton Farm schools, the board changed attendance areas for all 13 elementary schools. The school district continues to grow, and I can report to you that those attendance area changes worked out in 12 of the 13 locations. In the Bridle Path School, because there was a little bit more housing than we'd anticipated, there were also a few more children than we anticipated. So in the Bridle Path attendance area, we currently have 730 youngsters that go to the Bridle Path School, which was built for 750 students. Clearly, there is continued growth in that area. If you look at your packet, I provided you a map that shows the Bridle Path attendance area, and I have highlighted the area that lies between Lansdale Avenue, the Lansdale Catholic High School property, Line Street, and Holly and Rosewood Drive. That is currently a rather wooded area, and there are currently 3 developments that are going in, or rather 3 builders that are building in that area. One is Moulton Builders, and the other is WB Homes, and they are putting together a development called Holly Manor. That will consist of 46 houses. The other development there is Penn Forest, and that one consists of 30 houses. So the problem that we are faced with is that there will be children from 76 additional homes, all of which would go into the Bridle Path School and create problems for us, certainly beginning sometime between Christmas and through next year as those homes are sold and occupied. We know that currently we have approximately 440 students at the Knapp School, so we have some additional capacity there, and what we would recommend the board do is to move the Penn Forest and Holly Manor developments from the Bridle Path School to the Knapp School, and do it now before the homes are sold and occupied. The advantage would be that we could notify developers as they are talking to prospective buyers that that's where the children would go to school, and I think thereby avoid the problems that come, and this board has lived through last year, when you move families from one school to another. I should tell you that capacity at the Knapp School, based on the current use of the rooms there, is about 565, 570 youngsters. I should also tell you that Art Wood and I have had discussions about creating another classroom at the Knapp School for next year. Those of you who know that building know that in what was the original building, the older section, there was an entranceway and a lobby area that we really no longer need, and if enclosed properly, it would become a space that would be approximately the size of, from where I'm sitting, as wide as this is to the wall. That's certainly not a classroom size, but it would be a seminar room, and it could easily accommodate one of the special ed groups that's there, because there may only be 15 to 18 youngsters there. If we did that, that would get the capacity of that building close to 600 for next year. And we feel reasonably confident that we could handle whatever number of youngsters that would come out of the developments that I'm talking with you about. So I would urge the board to do that at this point. I think it will avoid a great many problems down the road. Be happy to entertain any questions you might have.
Charlie, just a quick question and a double check that these are single-family or multifamily dwellings as opposed to a senior residence.
These are single-family houses, Donna, somewhere in the 250,000 and up range. They will produce children.
Charlie,
Well, the people in them will produce the children.
There you go.
Charlie, there are some other streets marked on the map. Are there any families in there that would be affected right now?
There are, if you take the area from Rosewood and Lansdale and the Catholic High School property in Line Street, there are 31 children who live either on Rosewood, Holly Drive, Lansdale Avenue, Line Street, or the little lanes that are named Roberts, Country, and Dusty.
Those are the ones I was talking
And
about.
it's not our intention to move those. It's going to create a little odd situation on the map, but the specific recommendation I make is that we only assign the Holly Manor and Penn Forest developments, so that it'll be clear everyone else will stay at the Bridle Path School where they currently are.
So there's no existing students being transferred?
No.
That's
No one lives in the developments as yet.
So we're not talking about changing boundaries for anybody that's currently there and going to Bridle Path?
No, there is one student that is currently at the Bridle Path School whose family have purchased a home in one of these developments, and we'll deal with that as a special case if we need to. We'll have some discussion with that family.
Charlie, would you consider for next year making Rosewood and Holly Drive the thick line that all students then in that area would go to net? In other words, leaving it this year for them to go to Bridle Path, did you consider at all taking that whole block and
I think that, Tom, if you look at that, Holly and Rosewood are part of the subdivision off to the left on the map as you look at it, and I think that's natural. There are some woods, and I don't have a problem with the line that I'm drawing, because that's a new subdivision and coming in. I guess I really don't have a problem with Roberts and the roads that come in off of County Line, but I guess I am a little, it looks like an island, Charles.
It will be an island.
I understand. And what about those people that are currently, I think there are some houses on White Pine and Spark
Right.
Circle.
Right. The White Pine Road will be extended into what I designate as a shaded area.
The extension's in the area that you're moving.
White Pine Drive will be extended, and there will be houses in the Penn Forest development as part of that. However, I don't see that as a problem as long as the motion clearly is that if you live in Holly Manor or you live in the Penn Forest development, what we would say, it does split White Pine Drive. Presently, that's a cul-de-sac, but that will be opened. I think we should deal with that.
How many students? I know that there was an issue about this.
On White Pine Drive?
White Pine Drive and Spark Circle.
I can tell you
That's the
that.
only current, if you go from Holly back, and Holly is the big curve, if you go from Holly back, White Pines is the only way into that whole area, isn't it?
There,
Currently.
on Spark Circle and White Pine Drive, there are 13 youngsters. But see, I would not recommend that we move those because they were at NAP last year. We moved them to Bridle Path this year, and then you would be moving them back. And I just would not recommend that. I don't think that's fair.
It's not fair.
It does look like a little odd island.
Charlie, how
This is, it does, Ralph, but let me also point out to you, this is not the first time that we've had an island. We've had that between the Knapp and the Gwynn North School several years ago. You may recall, I think it's called Montgomery Commons, the off Route 63 as you go toward 202, the townhouses on the left. I recommended that we change that attendance area at the same time that they were going under construction, and for a period of time, that was an island as well. That island situation was eliminated in subsequent boundary changes. But I would not worry personally about an island at this point. There may come a time as we have continued growth and need for additional facilities down the road in years to come. That's a possibility, but I would suggest that we deal with that when we get to that point.
Charlie, you said that we're almost at capacity. We are at 6:30 at
We are at 7:30,
We're at 7:30.
and we have the capacity there is 750. That means that all 30 classrooms and the music practice room are now used for classroom purposes.
But Montgomery went down drastically from
The
last year.
Montgomery School is
Some of
about
it?
at 600, but we knew that that would happen because if you look at what is going on in the Montgomery attendance area, specifically the townhouses that are going in across from High Point along County Line Road, if you look at Cutler along Limekiln Pike, Lower State Road, there's a lot of activity now between Keenest and Lower State. And we think that past experience has been clear. Houses are built like mushrooms sprout in Montgomery Township. We've moved, for the second time now, we've moved several hundred children away from the Montgomery School. That was the impact of the Bridle Path School, and they continue to come.
Yes.
So we deliberately reduced the Montgomery attendance area to do that.
That was reduced by 100 and how many, Charlie, between last year and this year's 10th day enrollment?
I think it was more than 200, Donna.
We had 800 students in Montgomery.
Yeah, we had some 800, yeah, that's right, we had some over 800 last year, so it's well over 200. And, prior to that boundary change, we moved some youngsters prior to that. You may recall a couple of years ago, the Wind North School. If we had left all the youngsters that ever attended the Montgomery School there, we would probably have somewhere around 1,200 youngsters there.
Yeah, they had 817 10th day last
Okay.
year.
Yeah.
So that's some of the spillage in the Bridle Path.
And our area keeps shrinking.
I need to tell the board, overall, there is not a single vacant classroom in the elementary schools anywhere, despite the fact that we completed 2 elementary schools last year. There were 60 rooms, that's true, but 40 of those were immediately to take care of grade 6.
Right.
And when you spread the remaining 20 theoretically over the other 13 schools, you don't go very far.
Charlie, you feel NAP will be able to sustain this?
Yes.
What was NAP last
Yes.
year? On last
You
year?
know, those-
Because they were 100 or some more than they are now.
NAP was 415.
Oh, is that, I thought they were higher.
Personally, I look at any kind of an island situation as a very temporary situation. Given that we just redistricted with the 2 new schools within the last year, there was some objective of trying to look at it as being something longer than 1 year. And then now looking at it this year, creating an island, I'm fairly uncomfortable. I'll call you, Charlie, later this week. I think we ought to look at something that we could hopefully have something more than an island. Because I'm concerned that while they're new homes, I do believe that when you cut through from White Pines, that these 2 subdivisions are going to, in essence, connect the current stubs and take a neighborhood that's going to go from Lansdale Avenue to Line Street with very similar type homes, and to have an island in the middle that's going across the street to. I have some concerns, but I am interested if there is a solution that could be something other than an island that can be considered more permanent, because I consider an island a temporary situation. If we could make a permanent one, I'd rather do that now than make it an island and then fix it again. I'm assuming that we're gonna fix it again somewhere down the line, or we're gonna disrupt that neighborhood forever.
Charlie, I'd be interested with Ralph to know how many families are living in those homes in question outside that development, and the possibility of grandfathering those specific families, those specific homes, and as those children grow up and grow out, that people coming in new, the understanding to the new transfers in, or new resales, that they would then move to NAP. I mean,
I think-
Ralph's argument has a lot
Yeah,
of merit.
I think the grandfathering, is a possibility. I have some reservations about grandfathering and what that does to the board historically when we get into, changes of boundaries. I'd also respond to Ralph's concern. Dr. Sugar and I worked a long time on how to avoid the island, and, I'm certainly willing to consider whatever ideas might be, but we didn't find any.
Yeah, I've been tied up at work, and I really haven't had the time to call you. When I saw the island, I was concerned. I haven't had time to call, but I do. I will call and see if I can make myself comfortable between now and
Okay.
Thursday.
That'll be fine.
I don't get that concerned with the island effect that you're talking about, because it's putting a new neighborhood amongst a 20 to 30-year-old established neighborhood. If we were taking one big neighborhood and making...
That's a 4-year-old set of homes. Those are
not Rosewood, Holly Drive, that's...
No, I'm talking about... I'm talking about White Pine Park. That's what
Those are
you're...
houses.
Those are 3 or 4-year-old
All
homes.
those streets
But
fill up.
I don't see that as a big social problem in the neighborhood.
Well, how many homes would be there, Charlie, in that part? Do we have any idea?
On the new part?
The part that Ralph would like to maybe see included, I'm just worried about overwhelming that, and next thing you know, we're gonna go.
Well, the total number of houses, Vicki, is 76, and I think that even if you said there are 1.5 youngsters per house, some of those youngsters will also go off to non-public schools, so I think they'll fit.
No, I meant if there's a talk of expanding it, so that you're avoiding the island, that area.
Well, as I've indicated, I think that if the distribution were appropriate, we could probably get to 600 youngsters at the NAP school. But, I have to say this, and I've said this to the board before, when you talk about capacities, they're unusual animals to talk about, because it talks about every seat being filled in every classroom, and that's predicated upon the fact that you get a perfect distribution, which never happens.
Right.
Charlie, one last question. All the children in both of those, what we're calling the island and the other established neighborhoods, they're all bused. There's no walkers among them.
Yes, they would all be bused.
Okay.
Because primarily, it's not distance, Dave, it's
I know.
coming across
I see
Lansdale
the roads.
Avenue.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to make sure that was not an issue between
No,
the walkers
it's not.
and...
Bill and I had a conversation about this, and Bill feels that it's doable and it's practical.
Any other questions of Charlie on this one? Any questions from the audience regarding the rebounding? There's a hand in the back there, ma'am.
Yes.
Come up front, please, ma'am. Please remember to state your name and address before you speak.
My name is Eleanor O'Cotney. I live in Montgomery Township. I was wondering if you have any plans for taking care of potential students from those townhouses that are being built on Cow Path, which would also be Bridle Path. Attendance area, it looks like a pretty sizable development going in there also.
We have no plans other than to wait and see what's going to occur there. It is a part of the Bridle Path area, as you know. Townhouses have an interesting history. If you look at the Montgomery Commons development off Route 63, there are only about 25 children coming out of that whole complex, and that's a significant number of townhouses. We have yet to see whether that phenomenon will repeat itself or not.
So you're hoping that it's just a low number of children in
I'm
there?
more than hoping. Because I really have no place to go in either school.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the redistricting, or not redistricting, reallocation of houses? Okay, thank you, Charlie. Dr. Alcott.
Each year at this time, we introduce changes to the secondary program of studies. And because of all of the changes at the middle level, we really are not proposing changes for Pembroke, Penfield, or Penndale because of the changes made last year. But we do have changes for your consideration for the high school program of studies. Those changes are primarily centered around our tech prep efforts. And Dr. Vaughn is here tonight as our high school principal and our person who is directing our tech prep efforts out of the high school to lead that discussion. Juan?
Thank you, Dr. Elko. You have in front of you a list of the recommendations that we're making for adjustments in the program of studies at the high school. 3 years ago, we embarked upon an initiative called Tech Prep in this school district. Our objective was to raise the academic skill level of all the students in the high school, particularly those who had normally been classified as general and basic. The program of studies that we expect to put forward this year will show an elimination of all general classes in the high school. Every course in high school will be an academic one, and we will expect that all the students will be academic. You will note that there are significant recommendations in the area of business administration, technology, and home economics. We are embarking upon making those two departments, as well as the technology education department, vocational. We feel that by making those departments vocational, that we have, and sequencing the courses that our tech prep students will have a place at North Bend High School, as well as the Technical Career Center, to formulate careers and to get a career focus, which is one of the basic premises of the tech prep program. I'm not sure how you want me to proceed relative to the individual courses. I'd be happy to answer it. I, or one of many in the audience, would be happy to answer any questions you have relative to any specific courses. Those courses that are not related to the Tech Prep Initiative specifically are the Gifted Interdisciplinary Social Studies English. This is the second phase of the curriculum review process for the Gifted program that we're implementing. And we're also recommending an SAT preparation course. Pause for questions.
Is this just at the high school one? Is there a lead into this that's being generated at the junior high?
Let me
Or you're
address,
gifted?
that's a good question. What we would like to do with the program of studies as a whole for this coming year is have a 9 through 12 program of studies. A 7 and 8 middle school program of studies and a 9 to 12 program of studies, because that's where the youngsters begin their high school programming. We have implemented applied math at the 9th grade level, and we are working towards implementing a number of other courses at that level in the very, very near future. But the courses that will remain at the middle school level for next year, all those courses that were brought forth to you last year. So there are no changes there for this coming year.
You're not recommending incorporating something in with that course of study to help?
We did
prepare them
that
for
as they
this?
built their
Okay.
program last year, so that was incorporated last year.
Your child development course, is this different? We have a child development course at the high school now. I don't see it as a substitute. Is this just an addition? Is it a shorter course, more of an elective?
Where are you?
I don't know, page 3 of your, item 3, home economics, human services.
Yes.
There's a,
Well, this is a 2-period course. The
So
child
it's-
development course we have now is a 6-period major. This is a 2-period course. There are a number of our youngsters who will go directly from school into the child development preschool jobs in the area, and we feel a need to give those youngsters some of the skills they would need to be successful going directly into the workplace. The Tech Prep Initiative is basically a workplace initiative. It's an academic initiative, but we also know that there are a number of our youngsters who will go directly to the workplace.
right, like the
We want-
challenges of the aging adult, that's to prepare them for us baby boomers?
You and me, Vicki.
Teach them well, please, Juan.
Juan,
Yes.
in the same line, I don't know if you or somebody here is from the department that could speak about it, but there's been a lot of changes to this. I wonder if anybody would be prepared to talk about the philosophy
Absolutely.
of of all the changes, because there are significant changes to this curriculum.
Be happy to call Mrs. Leister forward so that she could do that for us. Mrs. Leister is here. Good,
Professor is here.
good. Then I don't have to do it.
To the home ec.
Yeah.
Just use all the voting.
What we're doing with the home economics curriculum is that we're changing this. It's really designed to provide students with skills in nutrition and wellness, human development and interpersonal relationships, parenting and childcare, housing and home furnishings, fashion retailing and design, and financial and consumer resource management, along with the career choices and employability. Does that help to answer?
No, what I think we need to hear is the reason that we're making the changes, and some of the sessions that you visited, some of the places you went, some of the things that you heard, and some of the things that I heard that caused us to shift our philosophy and our approach to the home economics department.
Okay, what we're doing is we're aligning ourselves with tech prep. We're preparing the students to be ready to work, or to go to school if they want to major in elementary education, if they want to major in early childhood education, or if they choose to work in the many facilities that we have for the aging in the area.
Much of our department in the past dealt with personal issues, and we're going somewhat away from that and keeping some of the courses, however. But many of the courses that we're implementing now have direct relationship to careers and job opportunities.
Institutional work.
Absolutely. So the major difference and the major change in focus is from personalized classes and courses to workplace classes and courses, and that's the biggest philosophical difference. Keeping in mind, though, that we felt a need to keep some of those courses in because there are some youngsters in our school who need that as well.
Dr. Bonnet, as I read through this, and Grace, not only do I see a certain amount of preparation for the work field, but many of these students that choose not to go to college and into work tend to emancipate after graduation, and therefore on their own and in need of independent living skills and daily skills of, daily life skills. And I appreciate the practicality home economics seems to be changing towards, as opposed to making aprons and baking shortbread. And so I think I'm impressed, and I'm glad this change has happened, and it's even more pleased to see the total removal of the general track. I think for too long those kids were lowballed and little expectation and required from them, and pushing them in this direction is not only noble but necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Megal. You will also note, particularly in the home ec department, that we have added 5.0 courses.
Correct.
And we've done that because we are convinced, and the business and industry is telling us, that these youngsters must be prepared, and we're going to challenge them like they've never been challenged before. And they'll meet it.
And we have foods here. Will this be also
I'm sorry.
the foods course title change to food science?
Yes.
Is that also moving towards a career-oriented?
Absolutely.
Culinary?
Absolutely.
Or hotel, restaurant?
We have for a long time taught cooking through foods. What we're going to do is we're going to add to that the science of foods. It's not just cooking, but the science of foods. Because many of our youngsters, in our North Penn area, there are a lot of places where our youngsters are going and working with foods. And we don't want them to be, we want them to get to the point where they can own those places, not just work there.
Dr. Bond, another question while Grace is here on home ec. Over at the tech school, and Ralph and Bill are on the board there with myself, there's a big change over the VOTEC also, and now that we have the career clustering, human services is a cluster in its own. Now, would you feel that there's an amount of overlapping here, or do you feel there's articulation?
There's articulation. Throughout this entire process, I was in conversation and communication with Dr. Irwin. And one of the things that Dr. Irwin and I both recognize is that the Technical Career Center is not going to be able to handle all the students in these programs. So we designed a program that was different from theirs,
Okay.
but similar to theirs. And Dr. Irwin has seen all of his package and feels very comfortable that we're not compromising. As a matter of fact,
We're not duplicating courses.
we're not duplicating courses. We have something that's different from theirs, and purposes are somewhat different. And as a matter of fact, as we proceed through the next couple of years, Dr. Irwin and I will be talking about the courses that he would like to see us run to supplement some of the clusters that they have.
I think that's probably one of our best benefits in having the VOTEC in the backyard, but at the same time, you're competing for the same students. So I think a large task that both of you have, all the courses have, is that we don't have the duplication of...
One of the things that's happened through this process, and I think that we have the same students, but we're not in competition. And Dr. Irwin and I have taken great pains to see that we were not competing, but that we, as a matter of fact, it's interesting because we have students that go to the Technical Career Center now for one period.
Okay.
We have some that go 2 periods, some that's not the same as it used to be when everyone went in blocks. We've individualized a lot of the programs between the high school and the Technical Career Center.
One, throughout these other curriculum areas, are they going to try to pursue cooperative efforts with different organizations in the area? I know with the preschool, there's something very close by, and
thank you for that question. Once this has been accepted, our next goal is to create workplace places that the youngsters can go for experiences, internships, mentoring, shadowing. We're working on those. In addition to that, we are going to be working on articulation agreements with the colleges as well for these youngsters. And again, I've talked with Dr. Irwin over there so that there's a couple articulation agreements that they have at the Technical Career Center that will be articulation agreements for the high school as well. They have an engineering one. We have an electronics shop at the high school. The articulation agreement they have relative to electronics is also good for the high school. One of our objectives is to see to it that all of these youngsters have a workplace experience before they graduate. Now, that workplace experience will be defined individually. And another piece of this that doesn't show in a program of study is a career counseling piece that will be talked about at another time. But we're very, very concerned that we create a situation that is of interest to youngsters, because our experiences show, and the research from high schools at work showed, that if the youngsters are interested, they're more motivated. The more motivated they are, the more successful they are. And we are not in the least bit concerned about raising our expectations for these youngsters. Several years ago, we eliminated the basic courses at the high school. At that time, there was some fear that these youngsters would never graduate. But the staff worked a miracle because those youngsters are graduating. And I think that what has happened is through this tech prep program and a number of other things we've done in this district, that the expectations have been raised for these youngsters, and the youngsters know that more is expected of them, and they're doing it.
that's the answer I hoped you were going to give.
Pardon me?
That's the answer I hoped you were going to give me.
Oh, well, I'm glad I did, Dave.
Dr. Bond, 20 years ago, we had a work study, career study thing, because I worked in a daycare center. Did we use that?
No, we
and
still
now
have
we're
that.
back to it?
We still have that.
That's it.
We still have a career study and a work study program at the high school that Mr. Ribble oversees. But what we're doing is we're talking about putting more youngsters in there. We're talking about having a program where we're going to have 700 students involved in that kind of initiative.
As a requirement? Or?
As well, I'm not sure whether it's going to be a requirement, but as a hoped requirement, absolutely. So that experience you had is an experience we want every student in our tech prep program to have. So we're working on a sequence. In addition to this program of studies, there will be a booklet that will be attached to this that sequences the courses. If you're interested in this particular career, these are the courses that we're suggesting that you take. So we believe that the parents need to know early what it is they need to take to do a certain thing.
think you're right.
In terms of the articulation agreements with the colleges, these articulation agreements are not designed so that students will finish community college sooner. They're designed so they can go further in college and learn more. And then when our students get out, they'll have the first dibs at the jobs. That's our hope.
I think that's good. And I do have one more question for Mrs. Leister. In child development 2 periods, it says a simulation project on parenting is a course requirement. Is that where they carry around a raw egg or a bag of flour, or are they coming to my house to take care of the kids? What? I tried. I read it.
Actually, it would be a simulation, and of course we have to do, it will have to be determined in regard as to whether it could be an egg or flour or whatever. And what we do is we try to simulate it that as well as we can. And of course we do explain to the students too that this is a simulation. But we want them to learn some responsibility in regard to this experience.
Today, Dr. Vaughn and I,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Heard a report from Penn State Abington. It used to be called Penn State Ogons. It's now Penn State Abington. And Montgomery County Community College about the articulation agreements that Dr. Vaughn was referring to. One of the staff members talked about the articulation agreement for medical technology and how students can come through our high school program or through our North Monco, and compared the program to students who don't go through that program. And he had some interesting statistics. For example, students that enter our programs and then go to one of those start those programs at about age 18, their senior year when they graduate. And they're in there approximately 24 months. And a number of them choose to continue their education and go on after 2 years at one of those places for a baccalaureate degree while they work. On the other hand, students who don't go through these articulated programs are typically 28 years of age and take 4 years to go through because they need to take almost an entire year of remedial coursework. They haven't had the benefits of the applied academic courses. The dropout rate is significantly higher. So they were able to prove statistically the differences between going through a program like the one Dr. Vaughn's talking about and not having those kinds of program opportunities.
May I add that this work site and workplace experience is a crucial piece of this. And I was privileged to be asked by the Cord people. Cord is the company that publishes the applied materials. They have developed a package and a plan as to how you develop the curriculum that takes you from the applied courses in the high school to the work site and how they connect. And they flew me to Waco, Texas for the training. And I say they flew me.
I heard that.
To Waco, Texas to be trained. They had 30 people from across the country come in and to be trained in this model that they're going to use it. And it's an excellent model. And it's one that I think that with some adjustment that we can play right into this district. So that's going to be a tremendous asset in terms of how we get 700 people experienced in the workplace. And see, right now, most of the career study, work study opportunities are for 12th graders and then some juniors and very few sophomores. So we're suggesting that a workplace experience is good for every youngster at every grade level. And we just haven't figured out quite how to do that yet. But we have a model that we can work from now. We think that we're going to be able to put a lot of youngsters in the field because the community is going to cooperate tremendously with us and make that happen for us. And that's the other thing that we have to do once we get this program set.
That's where the guidance will also come into play.
Absolutely.
One that will be going
and
through that.
We're counting on that review.
I figured I thought this was going to say, oh, there's another task.
Pressure's on.
You need to be counselors, right? Doing this work of the signing, making the contacts.
I visited the guidance review committee yesterday.
Dr. Vaughn was with us for an hour to discuss this.
Dr. Vaughn, on the interdisciplinary English and social studies for the 11th graders.
Yes.
It's a double period, or are they gonna have it at two different times?
It's a double period, it's a back-to-back period.
Back-to-back period, one teacher, two
Isn't
teachers?
it back-to-back? Yes, I'm right in there.
Back-to-back.
Two
So
teachers,
it's
an
a-
English teacher and a social studies teacher are working in an interdisciplinary way. That's the same thing we're doing with our 11th grade tech prep students, by the way. And our 10th grade tech prep students have an interdisciplinary approach that includes social studies, English, and biology. And they're back-to-back. One certified teacher in each discipline.
In each classroom, each period?
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, is it, the name and the description might indicate that it's limited or restricted to identified gifted students?
That is correct, yes.
Do we have other courses that are limited? I thought that our course catalog up to this point, while there were many 6.0 classes that people would be counseled out of, that we didn't have a course in there that if some student was willing to go out and give a shot, they couldn't get into at the high school level.
This is the exception to that. And this was born out of the gifted review committee's recommendations. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago.
This is the second phase of that implementation.
But I guess my question is, a lot of things are happening differently at the high school in the gifted program, while a lot of kids might be in this. I guess what I was wondering, why restrict it to just the gifted? And we have this approach, the interdisciplinary approach, the team approach is happening, and that stuff's happening in the middle schools. It's happening in the tech prep, and I guess my concern is, why are we isolating this to the gifted-only kids? And is there an interest, and should we be offering this option to the honors at 5.0 and 6.0 level, not just restricted to gifted?
We are in the process of looking at how we're going to restructure our schedules. We would like very much to interdis a lot of things, but we have to see what the sign-ups look like, what the scheduling looks like. We're not sure how much interdis we're even going to be able to continue to do with the tech prep program. Our hope is that we can continue to do what we're doing, but we're not sure what that's going to look like at this point because of numbers. And I guess Mrs. Clark would have to answer that question about the gifted.
That is our state plan for the gifted program, which we approve every year. That is our gifted programming at the high school, and it is, of course, limited then to the gifted students. There is a number required in that classroom, so it is not offered to all of the students.
Okay, but is this going to be the only class that is restricted like that at high school? I was under the impression that all the other classes in last year's, if I looked at the schedule, any student could qualify for every one of those classes, and this is the first one that's being introduced.
Now, last year it was in for sophomores. This current year, sophomores are doing this course.
Okay.
And
restricted to gifted.
Restricted to
Identified gifted.
Identified gifted, yes.
Okay.
How many sessions do we expect to have in this class?
Which class?
Of the interdisciplinary 11th grade?
We have two sessions now.
2 sessions.
And I would suspect that we would continue to have 2 sessions.
Yeah, and this is 12 periods, so it's going to be a block of time, right?
Yes, it's two
block?
two periods, maybe a second and a third period. It's their social studies and English required course.
It starts in grade 11. I asked you about the
It starts
junior
in
high.
grade 10.
It's already established,
Yes.
and you're just
Adding the 11th, that was part of the task force report.
Realizing that you have a student capacity for gifted students in these classes, say, help me, Judy, with the number that would be required.
Up to 18.
Up to 18.
Right now, that's in play. We talked about that last year. That number may be changed to 20.
Okay, so Dr. Bond, how reticent would you be that if there is 12, 15 bona fide gifted students that signed up for the course and it allows so many more in the room, why that could not be given by lottery or by a waiting list? Who's that? Oh, well. Is it something I said? Would you be open to allowing that to students who are high achievers in both areas, recommended by, teacher recommendations?
If we don't have the numbers, we would look at other options to see that course ran. And I would be in communication with Mrs.
Oh, there's no
Clark.
doubt the class would run. I would like to see it run at capacity, and if there are children that are achievers.
Well, I'd have
Though
to
not
ask Mrs.
designated
Park what
gifted,
I'm
could they
allowed
fill
to-
that room?
I'd have to ask what I'm allowed to do.
We could run it at the maximums, but we also have to leave some flexibility because students are identified as gifted all through the year and over the summer. So you don't want to pack it to capacity. We'd have to open another section because we can't exceed the state guidelines.
That's what I was gonna say, it'll have to follow gifted guidelines too, not regular classroom.
Can you put
guidelines.
by law non-gifted students in approved gifted programs?
That's probably a better
Not
question.
at
I
the
think
present
that's the
time.
question you were.
State law. Yeah,
That
not
was
at
the
the present
question.
time. That is an approved program for gifted students.
Interested in case of segregation.
Back to tech prep. Have you entertained
I'll be
talking
able to
any
see you too,
technical,
by the way.
technical institutes, for instance, Lincoln Technical
Yes.
Institute up in Allentown?
Yes.
Will you be corresponding with them to see how this program is working, to plug students into their program?
Absolutely. One of the nice things about being in the SRAB High Schools at Work program is that it's research-based and evaluated on a semi-annual basis. And one of the requirements that we're going to be faced, because we're going to be applying for state grant monies, is to do exactly what you said. We must have articulation agreements with all of the kinds of institutions that we're talking about sending our youngsters to work in. And Lincoln Tech is a place where we're very anxious to visit. And places like Lincoln Tech, we're talking about the Culinary Institute in Philadelphia. And we're talking about going to a lot of wonderful places to get their expertise and to make sure, and we're going to ask them to see what we need them to do for us is to make sure that the competencies we have in place are the competencies they're expecting. So we're going to be asking for input from the Lincoln Techs of the world in terms of what they're expecting our youngsters to do. We have done much of that, but we have a lot more to do.
Okay, because we've received some excellent employees from Lincoln Tech. And talking in college and business, the biggest problems they have and foresee for the future there are definite gaps that exist between production workers and the white collar workers. And I think this is an excellent program. And I'm glad to know that you'll be talking with places like Lincoln Tech.
Well, we have, and we will continue. One thing that we recognize, and I need to interject here, that we started 3 years ago with Dr. Elko, myself, I guess it was Mrs. Wilson and
Mrs. Callahan.
Mrs. Callahan going to Atlanta. And we came back with our heads filled of these wonderful ideas and not a clue as to how we were going to pull this thing off. But a lot of faculty have gotten behind this. And right now, we are literally in the forefront of tech prep in this country. We had Tom Winters here, Dr. Irwin had Tom Winters down from Harrisburg today to the Technical Career Center, and we took the opportunity to walk him across the quad to the high school. And we talked to him about what it's going to take for us to get this $50,000 grant. And he told us, and we're going to do it. And we're going to use it for in-service, we're going to use it for this career piece. We are going to make this thing work for the 700 or 800 students in our school who need it the most. And what's going to happen is that we're going to have college prep students who are coming across taking some tech prep courses. And we're going to have these tech prep students going across and taking some college prep courses. This year, we have tech prep students taking foreign language because we've asked them to and they're up to it. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch this crossing of what used to be boundaries. It's going to be exciting to watch because our goal is that anyone that comes out of our tech prep program can go to a 4-year college if they choose to. And if they choose not to, then they're prepared to go to wherever with the skills that they need. Our other goal is to make these young folks employable immediately following graduation from school and to see to it that they do not have to spend a semester remediating when they get there. It's a lofty goal, but I have a lot of help. Some sitting around this table, right?
Right. Well, remember sitting down at Hatboro Horsham High School, a number of board members went down to begin to, Mrs. Mangle, Mr. Reckcamp was another, that heard the,
was a great meeting.
the initial presentations on the
Dr.
SRAB,
Veneman.
Mrs. Prokowski.
We've come a long way since that meeting at Hatboro Horsham. I invite you over. I really would love for you to come visit our Tech Prep Enter This program and see what's happening with, the other thing that I don't want to get started on tech prep because I could keep you here all night. I don't mean to do that, but it's exciting to me to watch these youngsters do senior projects. And last year I went to watch some of these youngsters do their final project. Their project was related to what they were doing in the Vocational Technical Career Center, presented in our interdisc program here at the high school, and graded by both teachers. I mean, it's unheard of, and it's wonderful, and I applaud the folks who are doing it. This is an exciting time for these young people, it really is. And come see it, please.
Dr. Bond, you have a lot of your folks here tonight. I'd appreciate it if you'd ask them to stand. I think you've got a lot of your committee here tonight. I'd appreciate it if you'd ask them to stand.
Where my tech prep friends, please stand. There they are. And against the door is one of our community business representatives who's been with us for the duration and has kept us on the straight and narrow and sent us and went to his company and said, "This is what we need, do it." Not quite like that, but he's a lot nicer.
Mrs. Mengel didn't stand, and she's on the tech prep team.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Great. Any other questions from the board of Dr. Bond? Any questions from the audience? Sir?
My name is Bob Graziano from Towmenson. I'm happy to see the enthusiasm of Dr. Bond, and these changes look very positive. But as we all know, every time you vote on something, there is some financial impact, and all that seems to gel around budget time. So I'd like to see some discussion of what financial or projected financial impact there is in these changes. Thank you.
I think one of the difficulties in responding to that, Bob, is that there are going to be financial impacts at the high school, staffing needs primarily driven by increased enrollment next year. We have a senior class of 666 students and a ninth grade class of 900 coming in. And
a 10th grade class of 920 there.
Right. So until course tallies are taken in the spring, and when students sign up for the variety of courses, then you can begin to see whatever the staffing would be. At this point, we know that there will need to be more staff at the high school because of increased enrollment. We don't know that there will need to be more staff because of ups and down changes in courses being offered, where we replace a course or add a course. We may have more diversity, for example, in the home ec program, but less students taking the same course. If you follow me, you may not have to offer the same course 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times. You may offer it once, and another group of students taking another course. We come back to the board in the spring and talk about the staffing needs based upon the enrollments in all of the courses.
One, I haven't gone through, but there's many listed here with courses to be dropped.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's one thing that caught my attention, was that we weren't just simply adding courses and keeping the same old thing that we've just developed a course to replace. And that is something that I took note of, that there's quite a bit here that's actually going off the shelf for those that are coming on, and I don't know how many there actually would even represent of new courses here. It looks to me that we could almost be coming down with fewer than what you had if we were to sit here and delete. And many of these too are also just simply renamed and redesigned courses.
I think if you take a look, it's almost a 50-50 split. But in all fairness, what this document represents are not all of the courses that we wanted to come forward to you with. What it represents are the courses that we feel that we must have. There's no fluff in this. We took a long, hard look at a number of courses and met with a couple board members. This list was a lot longer 3 weeks ago, and we've shortened it for the reason that you're talking about. And we've dropped some courses because we felt that the courses we're adding were more important at the time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say there will be no cost to this, but we have done what we think that we could to lessen any impact on costs by eliminating some courses and not bringing forward some of them that we would like to have brought forth. But I will not say that there won't be a cost involved, and I don't know what that will be at this point, but it will be less because we worked hard at it.
But it isn't necessarily because of more courses, it's just tech prep happens to be an expensive adventure, and if we're going to do it, it's going to require investment. Is that correct, basically?
That is correct.
Just because of the nature of the advancement we're going to.
Well, the other, well, we'll get to that.
Any other questions of the audience? Sir?
I'm Bill Taylor. I live in Lansdale, and I didn't realize how uneducated I was tonight until I tried to keep up with what was going on. I would urge you very much to put out your own dictionary when this stuff becomes any more public than it is now. I, for the life of me, still don't know the difference between marketing and retail. I do not yet know what articulate means. I'm doing my best. And I'm sure there are many other words in here that are being used in special purposes here that my 5-year-old dictionary is not going to tell me. So I hope you do that.
I appreciate that, sir.
One I was thinking of, articulate.
That's a good comment, and I will certainly do that. I'm impressed that I even know these words. I think that the one word that is most important for everyone to understand, though, is the articulation, because that's a crucial piece. Articulation agreements are agreements that secondary schools have with post-secondary institutions by which youngsters get credit for having taken those courses in high school. Not necessarily to advance them, but so that they won't have to take those required courses as they move through the program, they can take more advanced courses. In other words, we have a Principles of Technology course in Tech Prep. Students who go to Lincoln Tech will have credit for taking that course and will not have to take it when they get to the secondary institution. So they're one step ahead of that course. So the articulation is the agreements that secondary schools have with post-secondary schools that grant credit similar to what happens with AP.
That's what I was going to say.
Similar to what happens with AP. We now have
advanced placement.
We now have advanced placement courses for what used to be the general student. You're right, things have changed significantly. And I'd have to ask somebody else what marketing retail. We can do that another time. And maybe a dictionary is a good idea.
Well, one's selling, one's promoting.
One's selling.
Any other questions from the audience? Okay, I'd like to announce that there was an executive session last night to discuss negotiations and one tonight following this meeting to discuss personnel matter. And with that, we're adjourned. Thanks for attending.